Kandahar Province, Afghanistan. September 14th, 2012. 0300 hours. The convoy is burning. 3 MRAPs twisted into metal coffins. Flames lighting up the Afghan night, like a beacon for every Taliban fighter within 10 miles. Black smoke rises into a sky, full of stars that don't care about the Americans dying below them. Sergeant First Class Maya Richardson is pinned behind the lead vehicle, rounds snapping past her head close enough to feel the heat. She's 31 years old, 5'6", 130 pounds, and she's the only one still shooting back. Her team is scattered. Sergeant Davis took shrapnel to the neck and isn't moving. Corporal Webb is trying to apply a tourniquet to his own leg with one hand. Private First Class Santos is screaming somewhere in the darkness, the kind of screaming that means he's still alive, but won't be for long if someone doesn't get to him. The ambush was textbook. IED took out the lead vehicle. RPG hit the trail vehicle before anyone could react. And now 30, maybe 40 fighters are closing in from 3 sides, pouring fire into the kill zone like they've got ammunition to waste. Maya's rifle runs dry. She drops the magazine, reaches for another, and her hand closes on empty air. She's out. 30 seconds of ammunition left in her pistol. 3 wounded men who can't move. No air support for at least 12 minutes. And an enemy force that outnumbers them 10 to 1, moving closer with every breath. Most soldiers would pray. Most soldiers would make peace with God and wait for the end. Maya Richardson is not most soldiers. She keys her radio one last time. Overlord, Phoenix 3-1. I'm going loud. 12 minutes. Don't be late. Then she pulls her knife from its sheath, takes a breath, and runs directly into the enemy fire. What happens over the next 12 minutes will be classified for a decade. The after-action report will use words like unprecedented and beyond the scope of normal human capability. The men who survive will refuse to talk about it, not because they're ordered to, but because they're not sure anyone will believe them. 12 minutes. 1 woman. A knife. When the helicopters finally arrive, the gun runs are unnecessary. The battlefield is already silent. Maya Richardson is kneeling in the dirt, covered in blood, most of it not hers, surrounded by a circle of bodies that stops the rescue team in their tracks. They count later. 23 confirmed kills, hand to hand. In the dark, she looks up at the hovering Black Hawk, at the soldiers fast roping down with weapons ready, and she says 5 words. My men need a medic. Then she passes out. That was 13 years ago. Today, Maya Richardson is 44 years old, retired, working as a security consultant for a private firm in Virginia. She doesn't talk about Afghanistan, doesn't display her medals, doesn't tell war stories at parties. She just wants to be left alone. But 3 days ago, she walked into a military conference at Fort Belvoir, a routine briefing on private security protocols, wearing a simple blazer and slacks. No uniform, no insignia, just a conference badge that said, M. Richardson Consultant. A young captain saw her badge, saw a black woman in civilian clothes, made an assumption, and in front of 40 military officers, he tore the badge off her lanyard and told her that civilian contractors weren't cleared for this briefing. This is a military-only session, he said. I don't know how you got in here, but you need to leave. Now. He didn't know. None of them knew. They were about to find out. 23 kills with a knife in 12 minutes. In the dark, the Silver Star, the Bronze Star with Valor, the Purple Heart twice, and some captain who wasn't born when she enlisted just tore off her badge and told her to leave. If you're new to this channel, you're in the right place. These are the stories they don't tell you, the warriors who served in silence, the legends walking among us. Hit that subscribe button right now. And drop your location in the comments, your city, your state, your country, wherever you're watching from. We feature locations in every video, and yours could be in the next one. Kandahar, Fort Belvoir. Wherever you are, let us know. Now let me tell you who Maya Richardson really is. Fort Belvoir, Virginia. 3 days before the incident, the Magnolia Conference Center is one of those military facilities that tries very hard to look civilian. Carpeted floors, neutral colors, the kind of generic artwork that says, We're professional but not intimidating. It hosts dozens of briefings every week. Security consultants, defense contractors, the endless ecosystem of people who orbit the military without wearing a uniform. Maya Richardson walks through the main entrance at 0845, 15 minutes early, like always. She's dressed professionally, charcoal blazer, white blouse, dark slacks. Her hair is pulled back in a simple style. No jewelry except a watch. Nothing about her appearance draws attention. That's intentional. 22 years in the Army taught her that the best soldiers are the ones you don't notice until it's too late. The lesson stuck. She signs in at the security desk, clips the conference badge to her lanyard, and makes her way to conference room C. The briefing is about updated protocols for private security contractors supporting military installations, dry stuff, but necessary. Her firm has 3 contracts up for renewal, and someone needs to sit through the bureaucratic updates. That someone is her. The room is already half full when she arrives. Mostly uniforms, Army, some Air Force, a few Marines. The civilian contractors are clustered near the back, laptops open, looking exactly as thrilled to be here as she feels. She finds a seat in the middle section, not too close to the front, not hiding in the back. The gray zone where people don't ask questions. A colonel takes the podium and starts the briefing. PowerPoint slides, policy updates, the particular drone of military bureaucracy that hasn't changed since Maya was a private first class. She takes notes, asks one question about credential verification, returns to her notes. 90 minutes pass without incident. Then the break is called, and everything changes. Maya is standing near the coffee station, reviewing something on her phone, when she hears the voice behind her. "Excuse me, who authorized your access to this briefing?" She turns. The man addressing her is young, late 20s. Captain's bars on his shoulders, the kind of aggressive polish to his uniform that suggests someone more concerned with appearance than experience. His nameplate reads Westbrook. Behind him, 2 other officers, a lieutenant and a major, are watching with particular attention of people who sense drama developing. "I'm sorry," Maya says. "Your badge." Westbrook points at her lanyard. M. Richardson, consultant. This briefing is military personnel only. The contractor session is in Room F. This is the security protocols briefing. Room C. I'm in the right place. "No, you're not." His voice carries the certainty of someone who has never been wrong about anything. This session has been upgraded to restricted access. Military only. Whatever contractor firm you're with, they should have notified you. Maya glances at her badge, glances at the room. Several officers are now watching the exchange. There was no notification about restricted access. "I confirmed my attendance yesterday." "Well, someone made a mistake." Happens all the time with civilian contractors. The way he says civilian contractors makes it sound like a disease. I'm sure you understand. Operational security. I understand operational security. I spent 22 years. "Ma'am, I don't have time for your resume. I need you to leave the briefing room. Now!" He reaches for her badge. Time slows down. Maya watches his hand close around a laminated rectangle, watches his fingers grip the lanyard, watches him pull with the casual force of someone who has never considered that he might be making a mistake. The badge tears free. The lanyard snaps against her neck. He holds up her credentials like evidence of a crime. "I'll have someone escort you to the contractor session. Next time, verify your access before you." "Captain Westbrook." The voice comes from the doorway. Deep, commanding. The kind of voice that makes captains stop talking mid-sentence. Everyone turns. Standing in the doorway is a man in his late 50s, 2 stars gleaming on his shoulders. Major General Thomas Chun, Deputy Commander of Army Cyber Command. His face shows no expression, which is somehow more terrifying than anger would be. "Sir," Westbrook snaps to attention, Maya's badge still dangling from his fingers. "I was just removing an unauthorized." "I can see what you were doing, Captain." Chin walks into the room. His footsteps are the only sound. Every officer in the room is frozen. The particular stillness of military personnel who sense that someone is about to have a very bad day. He stops directly in front of Westbrook, looks at the badge in the captain's hand, looks at Maya. Ms. Richardson, I apologize for the interruption. Please, take any seat you like. Westbrook's face cycles through confusion. Sir, this woman is a civilian contractor. The briefing is... Captain. Chen's voice could freeze water. Do you know who you just put your hands on? Sir, do you know who Maya Richardson is? She's a consultant, sir. Her badge says what her current employer registered her as. It doesn't say that she spent 22 years in the United States Army. It doesn't say that she retired as a sergeant first class with more combat deployments than you've had birthdays. It doesn't say... He pauses. The room holds its breath. It doesn't say that she's the only woman in Army history to receive the Silver Star for close quarters combat, or that she killed 23 enemy combatants with a knife, captain, in 12 minutes in Kandahar province while her entire team lay wounded around her. Westbrook's face has gone pale. It doesn't say that she's the reason Sergeant Davis, Corporal Webb, and Private First Class Santos are alive today, raising families, because she ran into enemy fire with an empty rifle and fought her way through 30 Taliban fighters to keep them breathing until air support arrived. Chun takes the badge from Westbrook's frozen fingers, hands it back to Maya with the careful respect of someone handling something precious. The badge doesn't say any of that, but I know, because I was the one who pinned the Silver Star on her chest. He turns back to Westbrook. So let me ask you again, Captain, do you know who you just put your hands on? Let me tell you about Maya Richardson, not the legend, the person. She was born in 1981. In the Englewood neighborhood of Chicago. If you know Chicago, you know what Englewood means. One of the toughest neighborhoods and one of the toughest cities in America. The kind of place where making it to 18 is an accomplishment and making it out is a miracle. Her mother, Denise, worked 2 jobs, cleaning offices at night, cashier at a grocery store during the day. Her father left when Maya was 4. She has exactly one memory of him. A man in a brown jacket walking down the front steps and not looking back. She never saw him again. Denise raised Maya and her 2 brothers alone in a 2-bedroom apartment on 63rd Street. They didn't have much, but they had rules. Be home before dark. Do your homework before anything else. Never let anyone tell you what you can't do. That last rule was the one that stuck. Maya was small, always had been, shortest kid in every class photo. The one who got picked last for basketball, the one boys thought they could push around. By middle school, she'd learned that size didn't matter as much as people thought. What mattered was whether you fight back. She fought back, not with her fists, usually with effort, with refusal, with the particular stubbornness of someone who has decided that the world's expectations don't apply to her. She ran track in high school, not because she was naturally fast, but because she was willing to train harder than anyone else. By junior year, she was the fastest girl at Englewood High. By senior year, she was all city, but college wasn't in the cards. Track scholarships went to girls from better neighborhoods with better coaches. Girls whose schools had proper equipment and training facilities. Girls who didn't have to work after school to help pay rent. Maya graduated in 1999 with a diploma and no plan. 1 week later, she walked into an Army recruiting station. I want to do something that matters, she told a recruiter. Something hard. What V you got? The recruiter, a sergeant first class who'd seen 100 kids like her come through the door, looked at this small, fierce girl from Englewood and made a decision that would change both their lives. You ever heard of combat medic school? Fort Jackson, South Carolina. Summer of 1999. Basic training. Maya was the smallest soldier in her platoon. 5'6" on a good day, 128 pounds, soaking wet. The drill sergeants took one look at her and made bets on how long she'd last. She lasted longer than any of them expected, not because she was naturally gifted, not because she was strong or fast or talented, but because she had something that couldn't be trained. She simply refused to quit. When the bigger soldiers finished the runs first, she kept running until she finished too. When the obstacle course beat her down, she got up and tried again. When the drill sergeant screamed in her face that she was too small, too weak, too female for the Army, she looked him in the eye and said nothing. Then she went out and proved them wrong. That one's different, the senior drill sergeant told his colleagues. Watch her. She's going to surprise everyone. He was right. After basic, she went to Fort Sam Houston for combat medic training. 16 weeks of learning how to keep people alive, how to stop bleeding, how to treat shock, how to perform medical procedures under fire. It was the hardest thing she'd ever done. She graduated third in her class. Her first duty station was Fort Bragg, North Carolina, home of the 82nd Airborne Division, some of the most elite soldiers in the world, and a 20-year-old girl from Chicago was about to join them. You know, they don't think you belong here, one of the other female soldiers told her during in-processing. The airborne guys, they think women can't hack it. Maya shrugged. They can think whatever they want. I'll be too busy doing my job to notice. She earned her jump wings 6 weeks later, then her air assault badge, then every qualification she could get her hands on, not to prove a point, but because she wanted to be the best medic she could be, because someday someone's life would depend on it. She didn't know how right she was. March 20th, 2003, Iraq. Operation Iraqi Freedom had just begun, and Maya Richardson, now a specialist with 3 years of experience, was riding in a convoy toward Baghdad with the 3rd Infantry Division. The invasion was supposed to be quick. In and out, 3 weeks, maybe 4, and then home. That's what the generals said. That's what the news reported. The soldiers on the ground knew better. The ambush happened on the 3rd day. A bridge crossing near Nazariah. 1 minute they were rolling toward an objective. The next minute the world was exploding. RPGs, machine gun fire, the chaos of a prepared enemy position that nobody had detected. Maya's vehicle took a hit. The driver was killed instantly. The gunner was wounded, slumped over his weapon, bleeding from a head wound that looked fatal. Maya didn't think, didn't freeze. Her training took over. She pulled the gunner down into the vehicle, applied pressure to his wound, screamed into the radio for support, all while rounds were punching through the armor around her, all while men were dying in the vehicles ahead and behind. She kept that gunner alive for 47 minutes until the medevac arrived. 47 minutes of applying pressure, of talking to him, of refusing to let him slip away. When the helicopter finally touched down, her arms were so cramped she couldn't straighten them. The gunner survived. Sergeant Michael Torres. He sent her a Christmas card every year, along with pictures of his kids. Maya received her first Army Commendation Medal for that action, her first combat patch, her first taste of what she was actually capable of. She didn't know it then, but she was just getting started. 2003. A bridge near Nazariah. A 22-year-old medic holding a man's life together with her bare hands while the world exploded around her. That was just the beginning. By the time Maya Richardson finished her 22-year career, she would deploy to Iraq 3 times and Afghanistan 4 times. She would be wounded twice, promoted 6 times, and decorated more than any woman in her unit's history. But the night in Kandahar, the 12 minutes that made her a legend, that was still 9 years away. If you're still watching and you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Hit that button, join the family, and drop your location in the comments. Your city, your country, wherever you're watching from. We shout out locations in every video, and you might be featured in the next one. I also want to know, what do you think of Captain Westbrook so far? The man who tore off her badge without a second thought. Do you think he deserves what's coming? Drop your opinion in the comments. I read every single one. Let me tell you about the night everything changed. Maya's career after Iraq was a steady climb up. Promotions came. Responsibilities grew. She went from treating wounds to leading the soldiers who treated wounds. A shift from doing the work to making sure the work got done right. By 2010, she was a sergeant first class assigned to a special operations support element in Afghanistan, not special forces herself. Women weren't allowed in those units back then, but as close as a female soldier could get, providing medical support to teams doing things that didn't make the news. She'd seen more combat than most infantry soldiers, saved more lives than she could count, Lost some too. That was the part they didn't train you for. The ones who died despite everything you did. The ones whose faces you see when you close your eyes. But she kept going. Because that's what soldiers do. Because someone had to. September 2012. Her 7th deployment. She was 41 years old, which made her ancient by combat standards. Most soldiers her age had moved to desk jobs, training positions, anything that didn't involve getting shot at. Maya was still in the field. You know you could ride a desk, her commander told her. You've earned it. Nobody would think less of you. Somebody has to take care of the young ones, she said. They don't know what they don't know. Not yet. September 14th. The mission that would change everything. A routine convoy escort. 12 soldiers. 3 vehicles. A trip from a fire base to a forward operating position that should have taken 2 hours. Should have. The Taliban had other plans. The IED detonated at 0247. One moment Maya was riding in the lead MRAP, reviewing medical supplies, thinking about the email she needed to write to her mother. The next moment she was upside down, ears ringing, tasting blood. Try to remember which way was up. The vehicle had been lifted off the ground and thrown onto its side. The driver, Specialist Kwan, was unconscious, maybe dead. The gun was somewhere above her, groaning. Maya forced herself to move. Training. Always the training. Check yourself, then check your team. Stop the bleeding. Call for help. Basic stuff that becomes impossible when the world is on fire. She found her radio. Keyed it. Phoenix 3-1, contact IED. Lead vehicle down. Need immediate. The RPG hit the trail vehicle before she could finish the sentence. Then another. Then the night erupted with gunfire from 3 directions, and Maya understood with terrible clarity what had happened. They'd driven into a prepared ambush. The Taliban had been waiting for them, had planned this. The IED was just the opener. The main event was the 30-plus fighters now pouring fire into the kill zone. She pulled herself out of the overturned vehicle, assessed the situation, and felt her stomach drop. Sergeant Davis was down, blood pumping from his neck. Bad. Very bad. Corporal Webb had taken rounds in both legs and was trying to crawl toward cover. Santos was screaming somewhere in the darkness, the kind of screaming that meant catastrophic injury. The middle vehicle was burning. She couldn't tell if anyone inside was alive, and the enemy was closing in, using the firelight to identify targets, their rounds getting closer with every passing second. Maya made a decision. She ran to Davis first. Applied pressure, realized immediately that she couldn't save him, and provide covering fire at the same time. She was a medic, not an infantry soldier. She was supposed to treat the wounded while others did the fighting. But there was no one else. She grabbed Davis's rifle, propped herself against the overturned MRAP, and started shooting back. The first 3 minutes were about buying time. Maya knew the convoy had gotten off a distress call before the radio went dead. She knew QRF, the Quick Reaction Force, was spinning up back at the fire base. She knew that if she could keep her team alive for 15, maybe 20 minutes, help would come. She also knew that they didn't have 15 minutes. The Taliban fighters were advancing in coordinated bounds, using the terrain like professionals. These weren't farmers with AK-47s. This was an experienced unit, probably a Connie network, definitely trained for exactly this kind of ambush. They wanted prisoners. Maya could tell by how they were moving, closing the noose instead of just pouring fire. They wanted to take Americans alive for propaganda, for ransom, for the kind of videos that would make the news back home. She wasn't going to let that happen. Overlord Phoenix 3-1. She keyed the radio one more time, not sure if anyone could hear her. I have 3 wounded, position compromised, enemy strength approximately 30 to 40. QRF ETA. Static, then barely audible. Phoenix 3-1, 12 minutes. 12 minutes. An eternity. She looked at her ammunition. 1 magazine left in the rifle. 1 magazine in her pistol. Maybe 40 rounds total. 40 rounds. 30-plus enemies. 12 minutes. The math didn't work, unless she changed the math. Maya Richardson had never thought of herself as a warrior. She was a medic, Her job was to save lives, not take them. In 22 years of service, she had never once sought combat, never glorified violence, never thought of killing as anything other than a terrible necessity. But necessity was here now, looking her in the face. Webb. She crawled to the wounded corporal, pressed her last tourniquet into his hands. Keep pressure on your legs. Don't move. Help is coming. Sarge, where are you? Stay here. Stay quiet. No matter what you hear. She checked Davis. Still breathing, barely. Nothing she could do for him now except keep him from becoming a prisoner. She checked her rifle. Empty. She checked her pistol. 15 rounds. She checked her knife. Sharp. Then she did something that the after-action report would later call tactically inadvisable, a military euphemism for insane. She left her cover and advanced directly into the enemy position. The first kill was with her pistol. A fighter who had gotten too far ahead of his unit. Too eager to capture the American woman he could see running toward him. He probably thought she was surrendering, trying to save herself. He was wrong. The round caught him center mass. He went down. His weapon clattered into the darkness. Maya didn't stop to confirm the kill. She was already moving, using the muzzle flash to orient herself, mapping the enemy positions by their fire. 14 rounds left. The second and third kills were quick, efficient. 2 fighters crouched behind a rock formation, focused on the overturned vehicles, not expecting anyone to come at them from the flank. 2 shots, 2 bodies, 12 rounds left. Now they knew someone was among them. The firing pattern changed, became confused. Fighters shooting at shadows, at each other, at anything that moved. Good. Chaos was her ally. But 12 rounds wouldn't last. She moved deeper into their position, using the darkness, using their confusion. Found a fighter reloading his weapon. Knife across the throat before he could scream. Another one. Tried to radio his commander. Knife through the ribs from behind. Another one. Another one. She lost count. Lost time. Lost everything except the next target, the next movement, the next breath. The knife became part of her hand, an extension of will, of refusal, of the absolute determination that her men would not die tonight, that she would not let them be taken. The after-action report would try to reconstruct those 12 minutes, would interview the survivors, hers and theirs, would piece together a timeline from bullet trajectories and blood patterns and the testimony of men who couldn't quite believe what they'd seen. 23 confirmed kills. 23. With a rifle that was empty, a pistol that ran dry after 7 shots, and a 7-inch K-bar knife that had belonged to her first squad leader, a man who died in Iraq and left it to her because he said she had the heart for it. She didn't remember most of it afterward. The mind protects itself from certain things. What she remembered was fragments, the weight of a body falling, the copper smell of blood, a man's face in the instant before the knife found him, young, terrified, probably someone's son. She remembered the sound of helicopters arriving, the wash of rotors, voices shouting in English instead of Pashto. She remembered looking down at her hands, black with blood, and not recognizing them as her own. And she remembered what she said when the rescue team found her kneeling in a circle of bodies. My men need a medic. They flew her to Bagram, then to Landstuhl in Germany, then to Walter Reed. Physically, she had a fractured wrist, 3 cracked ribs, and lacerations across both arms that required over 100 stitches. Nothing that wouldn't heal. Nothing that would end her career. The other wounds were different. 3 weeks of evaluation. Counselors. Psychiatrists. The particular concern that the military shows when a soldier does something that defies explanation. Walk me through it again, the evaluator said. You left your cover position with an empty rifle and engaged 30-plus enemy combatants at close range. Why? Maya looked at him, a major she'd never met, clipboard in hand, trying to fit what happened into a box that made sense. My men were wounded. The enemy was closing. Air support was 12 minutes out. So you decided to engage the enemy alone? I decided my team wasn't going to die waiting for help that might not come in time. With a knife, with what I had. The major made a note. Maya could see him trying to reconcile the small woman in front of him with the body count in his file. Sergeant Richardson, 23 enemy Kia in 12 minutes it's unprecedented for any soldier. The records we have for close quarters combat don't. I wasn't thinking about records, sir. I was thinking about Davis and Webb and Santos. I was thinking about their families. I was thinking about keeping them alive. She paused. The rest just happened. The Army didn't know what to do with her. A female soldier with a body count that rivaled Special Forces legends? It didn't fit the narrative. Didn't fit the boxes. Eventually, they gave her the Silver Star. The citation was deliberately vague. Extraordinary heroism under fire, but the soldiers who knew. She served 5 more years. Made no complaints when she was moved to training roles, support positions, jobs that kept her out of direct combat. She understood. What she'd done made people uncomfortable, made them ask questions they didn't want answered. In 2017, she retired. 22 years of service, multiple deployments, decorations she never displayed, and a single question she'd never been able to answer. What was she now after all of that? Who was Maya Richardson when she wasn't Sergeant Richardson anymore? She didn't know. She still wasn't sure she wanted to find out. Back to Fort Belvoir. Back to Conference Room C. Back to the moment when everything changed. General Chun has just finished speaking. The silence in the room is absolute. Every officer is staring at Maya, at Westbrook, at the badge that Chun handed back like it was made of gold. Westbrook is the color of old paper. His hands are shaking visibly. The career-ending implications of what he's done are playing across his face in real time. General Chun, sir, I didn't know. There was nothing in the briefing materials that... That's the point, Captain. Chen's voice is quiet, which is worse than yelling. You didn't know. You assumed. You saw a black woman in civilian clothes, and you assumed she didn't belong. Sir, I would never. You just did. In front of 40 witnesses. Chun turns to his aide, a lieutenant colonel standing near the door. Colonel Peters. I want Captain Westbrook relieved of his duties effective immediately. Confine him to quarters pending a formal investigation. The room gasps. Officers exchange glances. This isn't a slap on the wrist. This is the beginning of the end of a career. Sir, Westbrook's voice cracks. Sir, please. It was a mistake. A mistake is forgetting a deadline, Captain. A mistake is miscalculating a logistics requirement. What you did was assault a civilian, putting your hands on her badge, on her person, based on nothing but your assumptions about what she looked like. Chen's voice rises for the first time. You are an officer in the United States Army. You are held to a higher standard, and you failed that standard in the most public, most humiliating way possible. He turns to Peters again. I want a full Article 15 investigation. Conduct unbecoming an officer, failure to maintain standards, and whatever else JAG thinks is appropriate. Peters nods. Yes, sir. Westbrook is trembling now. The West Point ring on his finger suddenly looks very small. Sir, my career... Should have thought about that before you put your hands on a Silver Star recipient and told her she didn't belong. 2 MPs appear at the door. She must have called him before he even entered the room. He knew what he was going to find. He came prepared. Escort Captain Westbrook to his quarters. He is not to leave the installation without authorization. The MPs move forward. Westbrook looks around the room, at the officers who were his peers, at the civilians who witnessed his humiliation, at Maya, who has said nothing through all of this. Ms. Richardson, he says, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Maya looks at him, this young man whose career is ending in front of her eyes, who made a terrible mistake and is about to pay for it with everything he's built. She says nothing. The MPs take his arms and lead him out. The door closes behind them. Chun turns to Maya. His expression softens slightly. I'm sorry you had to witness that, but it had to be done. What will happen to him? Maya asks, Article 15, non-judicial punishment at minimum, likely a formal letter of reprimand that will end any chance of promotion, possibly a board of inquiry, depending on what the investigation finds. He pauses. His career is over. Not officially, not yet, but effectively. What he did and who he did it to, that's going to follow him. Even if he avoids separation, he'll never make major, never get a command. He'll spend the rest of his time in the army pushing paper until they force him out. Maya absorbs this. She's not sure how she feels about it. Part of her thinks he deserves it. Part of her wonders if destroying his life is really justice. "Can I speak to him?" she asks. "Before I leave?" Chen's eyebrows rise. "You want to talk to the man who just assaulted you? I want to make sure he understands why this happened. Not just that it happened." Chun considers, then nods slowly. "I'll arrange it. 30 minutes. Supervised." The quarters where they're holding Westbrook are officers' housing, a small apartment on the installation, comfortable enough but clearly a cage. An MP stands outside the door. Maya enters alone. Chen offered to send someone with her, but she declined. Westbrook is sitting on the edge of a bed, still in his uniform, staring at the floor. He looks up when she enters. "Ms. Richardson." His voice is hollow. "I didn't think you'd come." "Neither did I." She pulls a chair from the small desk and sits across from him. The MP closes the door but remains just outside, visible through the window. "I'm not here to make you feel better," Maya says. "I want to be clear about that." "I know. I'm here because I want you to understand something. Not for your sake. For the sake of whoever you would have done this to next." Westbrook flinches at that. "I wouldn't have." "You would have. You've probably done it before. Maybe not this extreme. Maybe not physical. But the assumption? The instant decision that someone doesn't belong? That's not new for you. I could see it in how natural it was." He doesn't deny it. Can't deny it. "I spent 22 years in the army," Maya continues. "You know how many times someone assumed I didn't belong? How many times I walked into a room and got that look, the one that says, 'Who let you in here?'" She doesn't wait for an answer. Hundreds. Thousands. Every unit. Every deployment. Every new commander who had to be convinced that the small black woman was actually good at her job. I got used to it. Had to. It was the cost of doing what I loved. Westbrook is staring at his hands. The West Point ring catches a light. The night in Kandahar. The one General Chin mentioned. I wasn't trying to prove anything. Wasn't trying to show anyone how tough I was. I was just trying to keep my team alive. 3 wounded men who would have died or been captured if I didn't act. She leans forward. "But you know what I thought about afterward? When the psychiatrists were trying to figure out if I was crazy. I thought about all those assumptions. All those people who looked at me and decided I was less than, and I wondered if maybe, somewhere in my head, I was trying to prove them wrong." She stands. "Your career is over. That's not my fault. That's yours. But maybe if you actually learn something from this, it won't be a complete waste." She walks to the door, pauses with her hand on the handle. "You got caught because you did it to someone with a silver star. But what about all the people without silver stars? The ones who don't have a General Chun to speak for them? You think about that for the rest of your life. Think about who you would have become if nobody had stopped you." She opens the door. "Maybe losing your career is the best thing that ever happened to you. Maybe it's the only thing that could have saved you from becoming something worse." She leaves. Westbrook sits alone in his quarters, staring at the wall for a very long time. Fort Belvoir, Virginia. Captain David Westbrook. Former captain, technically, though the paperwork hasn't finished processing, stands outside the gates of the installation where his career ended. The Article 15 hearing was 3 months ago. The board found him guilty of conduct on becoming an officer and failure to maintain standards. He received a formal letter of reprimand, forfeiture of pay, and was strongly encouraged to resign his commission rather than face a board of inquiry that would likely recommend separation. He resigned. 10 years at West Point and in the Army. Gone. His parents won't speak to him. His fiancée returned the ring. His academy classmates have stopped returning his calls. He is, for the first time in his life, nobody, and he's starting to understand what that feels like. He holds a letter in his hand. He's read it a dozen times since it arrived. "Captain Westbrook, I don't know if you'll read this, but I'm writing it anyway. What you did to me was wrong. But what happened to you afterward was also wrong. Not because you didn't deserve consequences, but because consequences alone don't fix anything. They just punish. I've been thinking about what I said to you, about learning something, about becoming something better instead of something worse. There's an organization called the Veterans Crisis Project. They work with veterans who have PTSD, who are homeless, who fell through the cracks. They need volunteers. People who are willing to do the hard, unglamorous work of actually helping instead of just talking about it. I'm not saying this will fix your life. I'm not saying it will give you back what you lost. But I am saying that the only way forward is through. You can spend the rest of your life being the man who got caught, or you can spend it being the man who learned. Your choice. Maya Richardson. Westbrook folds a letter, puts it in his pocket. He doesn't know what he's going to do, doesn't know who he's going to become. But for the first time since that day in the conference room, he thinks maybe there's a path forward. Maybe losing everything is just the beginning of finding something better. 23 kills in 12 minutes. A silver star she never asked for. And a captain who lost everything because he couldn't see past his own assumptions. That's the story of Maya Richardson. Not just the warrior, the person, the woman who watched a career end because of what was done to her, and then reached out to help the man who did it. She's still out there, working her consulting job, volunteering with veterans, not telling war stories, not displaying her medals. But the soldiers who served with her remember. Sergeant Davis, Corporal Webb, Private First Class Santos. They remember every time they hugged their kids, every time they celebrate a birthday they almost didn't have. And somewhere, a former captain is learning what it means to be invisible, to be dismissed, to be no one. Maybe that's the only lesson that could save him. If this story moved you, if you felt something watching it, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. We post stories like this every single week. Stories they don't teach you. Stories that need to be told. Drop your location in the comments. Your city, your state, your country, wherever you're watching from. We feature locations at the start of every video, and yours could be next. And I want to hear from you. What do you think about this story? Was Maya right to reach out to Westbrook after everything he did? Should she have just let him fall? Or did she give him exactly what he needed? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one, and the best comments get pinned. I've seen comments from soldiers watching in Afghanistan, veterans in Texas, mothers in Chicago, wondering if Maya might have gone to school with their kids. Wherever you are, you're part of this community now. Maya Richardson ran into enemy fire with an empty rifle and a knife because 3 wounded men needed her. She watched a man's career end because of what he did to her, and then she wrote him a letter offering a path forward. That's what real strength looks like. Not just the power to destroy, the wisdom to rebuild. Subscribe. Drop your location. Tell me what you think. I'll see you in the next one.